Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking a life that was just loud, messy, and undeniably brilliant.
Yes.
I think for most of us, if you close your eyes and you think of the 1960s, and I mean the real gritty 1960s, not the, flower crown commercial version, you hear a specific sound.
Oh, yeah?
It's a rasp. It's a wail. It's the sound of someone shredding their vocal cords just to get an emotion across. We are talking, of course, about Janis Joplin.
A voice that could strip paint off the walls and break your heart in the same measure. And you're so right about that commercial version of the 60s. Often when we look back at icons from that era, especially the members of the so-called 27 Club, we tend to flatten them out.
Right, we turn them into cartoons.
We do. We turn them into cartoons.
Yeah.
With Janis, the caricature is the wild child. Carl, the woman with the feather boa in one hand and a bottle of Southern Comfort in the other.
Exactly. The party girl who lived fast and died young. That's the T-shirt version of Janis Joplin.
It is. But the mission for this deep dive is to really shatter that caricature. Because when you actually dig into the biographies, the session logs, the personal letters, you find this devastatingly complex paradox. You have this woman who was an electric force of nature on stage. I mean, commanding, aggressive, sexual, just powerful. But the second she stepped off that stage, she carried this bottomless well of vulnerability.
It's like the stage was the only place the armor actually worked.
That's a perfect way to put it. There's a quote from her that just haunts me. She said she felt laughed out of class, out of town, and out of the state.
Wow.
And yet, this same person became the biggest selling album artist of her time. Posthumously, of course, which is the tragedy of it.
Yeah.
So we need to understand how that shy, bully girl from Texas became the Janis Joplin the world knows.
Let's start exactly there, because I think a lot of people assume she just sort of emerged fully formed from the Haight-Ashbury scene in San Francisco, like she was born in a commune.
Far from it. She was born January 19th, 1943, in Port Arthur, Texas. And we need to sit with the reality of Port Arthur in the 1940s and 50s.
Right.
This is an oil town. It is industrial, it is deeply conservative, and it is conformist. The whole place smells like refineries.
And her family wasn't exactly bohemian, right? This wasn't some artistic household.
Not at all. Her father was an engineer for Texaco. Her mother was a registrar at a business college. She had siblings. It was a very standard middle-class, church-going American upbringing.
So by all accounts, she should have grown up to be what? A teacher, a secretary.
Exactly. Married a guy from the plant and settled down in Port Arthur. That was the path.
But clearly that standard path was not working for her. When does the friction really start?
It starts early, but it explodes in high school. This is where the misfit narrative really, really takes hold. And we have to be blunt about the cruelty she faced. It wasn't just that she was weird. She went through a physical transformation that made her a target.
Right.
She became overweight as a teenager, and on top of that, she suffered from absolutely severe acne.
And high school is brutal enough if you look perfect. If you don't.
It's a Shark Tank. The scarring from the acne was so bad that she actually required dermabrasion, which is a painful medical procedure. They're basically sanding your skin.
Oh, that's awful.
And the kids in Port Arthur were just merciless. She was bullied relentlessly. There were stories of her being called names in the hallways, things I won't repeat. She was completely, utterly ostracized.
So how do you survive that? I mean, usually a kid in that situation just tries to become invisible. They try to blend in to stop the attacks.
That's what's so fascinating. Janis did the exact opposite. If the mainstream rejects you, you have two choices, right? You can beg for re-entry, or you can reject the mainstream right back, even harder.
And she chose the latter.
She chose the latter. She found the other outcasts, a small group of boys who were into art and literature, and they started looking for culture that wasn't on the radio in Port Arthur. And that is where her musical education began.
This is where she finds the blues.
This is where she finds the blues. They introduced her to these incredible artists.
Which makes sense. If you're a white middle-class girl in Texas feeling completely alienated and in pain, and then you hear Bessie Smith or Maharani.
It resonates.
Yeah.
She heard Lead Belly and Bessie Smith, and it was like a lightning bolt. She realized, wait, this sound matches how I feel inside. It wasn't just entertainment for her. It was a lifeline. She later credited Bessie Smith specifically with influencing her decision to even become a singer.
So she found her voice by listening to other women who weren't afraid to sing about pain and grit.
Exactly. And she takes this new identity, this new armor, to college with her. But she didn't exactly thrive in academia.
No, she tried. She graduated high school in 1960 and went to Lamar State College. Then she transferred to the University of Texas at Austin. but she never graduated.
But her time at UT gives us one of my absolute favorite artifacts of her life.
Is this the newspaper profile? I love this story.
Yes. In 1962, the campus newspaper, the Daily Texan, ran a profile on her. And the headline itself says everything. It was, "She dares to be different."
She dares to be different. That sounds like a compliment now, but in 1962 Texas, that's almost an accusation.
It was definitely framed as a curiosity, almost like they were observing a rare bird in the wild. The article details her behavior, noting that she went barefoot whenever she felt like it.
Right.
She wore men's Levi's to class, which, you have to remember, women just did not do that in 1962.
Yeah.
And my favorite detail, she carried an auto harp everywhere she went.
An auto harp, just walking around campus with an instrument ready to go at any moment.
Exactly. The article says, in case she gets the urge to break into song. And while we can look back and say, oh, how charming, what a free spirit, we have to recognize what that was. That was armor.
It's a defense mechanism.
It's a total defense mechanism.
Yeah.
She was signaling to everyone, I am not one of you. You can't reject me because I've already decided I don't want to be like you.
It's a preemptive strike against conformity. But
Really?
eventually, Texas just becomes too small or too hostile.
It was both. She couldn't breathe there. So in 1963, she makes her first real escape. She hitches a ride to San Francisco with a guy named Chet Helms. And you should remember that name. He's important later. She goes just to get away. This is her first stint in the city, way before the summer of love really kicked off.
And musically, things start to happen there, or is it more of a personal journey?
A little bit of both. Musically, she recorded some early blues standards with Jorma Kaukonen, who would later go on to be the guitarist for Jefferson Airplane.
Wow, okay.
But it's incredibly lo-fi stuff. I mean, there's this one recording of Trouble in Mind where you can literally hear Jorma's wife typing on a typewriter in the background of the song.
That is fantastic. Talk about raw.
It's charming, but the reality of her life in SF during this period was anything but. This period, from 63 to 65, it's really a descent into hell for her. She wasn't just singing the blues, she was living a very, very dangerous life.
Okay.
She developed a reputation as a speed freak, injecting methamphetamine. She was also dabbling in heroin. She gets arrested for shoplifting.
This is the part of the story that gets really scary, because we think of Janis as this robust, powerful figure, but the physical toll here was extreme.
It was terrifying. Friends who saw her during this time described her as skeletal. She was completely emaciated. At her lowest point, she weighed 88 pounds.
88 pounds, that's near death.
It was life-threatening. She was just dissolving. By May of 1965, her friends in the city, and these were people who were no angels themselves, they looked at her and they realized, if she stays here, she is going to die.
So they had to do something.
They did. They threw what they called a bus fare party.
A fundraiser to send her away for her own good.
Exactly. They passed the hat around, not to buy her concert tickets or drugs, but to buy her a Greyhound bus ticket back to Port Arthur, Texas. They effectively deported her for her own survival.
That is a heavy, heavy moment. You're being sent back to the place you hate because you failed to survive in the place you love. So she goes back to Texas in 1965. And this is the chapter that always blows my mind. She tries to go straight, and I mean really straight.
It's the struggle for normalcy.
Yeah.
She retreats to the safety of her parents' home. She enrolls at Lamar University again, this time majoring in anthropology and social work.
A total 180.
A total 180. And she changes everything about her appearance. She adopts a beehive hairdo. She wears conservative skirts and blouses. She stops the drugs completely. She is trying so hard to be the person Port Arthur always wanted her to be.
She even got engaged, right, to a very conventional guy.
She did. She got engaged to a man named Peter DeBlanc. He worked with IBM computers. You cannot get more square in the 1960s than an IBM man.
No, you can't.
It really seemed like she was punching her ticket to a conventional suburban life.
But it didn't stick.
No. The engagement fell apart. He was the one who ended it. And for Janis, with her deep-seated history of rejection, this is a massive, massive blow. It reinforced that horrible idea in her head that she wasn't marriage material.
And there's a really insightful detail from this period. She was in therapy, right?
She was. She was seeing a therapist, a social worker named Bernard Giarratano.
And what did she tell him? What was the conflict?
She presented him with this dilemma that she felt was life or death. She said she felt she had two choices. Option A, she doesn't sing. She stays in Texas, becomes a key punch operator or a secretary, and lives a mundane life that she was convinced would kill her spirit.
Okay.
Option B, she returns to music and singing, but, and this is the heartbreaking part, She was absolutely convinced that the music world would inevitably lead her right back to drugs.
That is devastating. She equated her art with her own destruction. She didn't think she could have the voice without the needle.
Exactly. Giarratano tried to tell her, you can sing and stay clean, but she just didn't believe it was possible for her. She was terrified. But ultimately, the boredom of Port Arthur and the pull of the music were just too strong to resist.
And this is where Chet Helms, the guy from the hitchhiking trip, re-enters the picture.
Right. It's 1966 now. The counterculture is starting to boil in San Francisco. Chet is now managing a band called Big Brother and the Holding Company.
Okay.
They have this wild, psychedelic sound, but they need a singer. They need a voice who can cut through all that noise. And he thinks of Janis. He sends a friend to Texas to recruit her.
Does she go willingly? Or is there hesitation?
She goes, but she lies to her parents about it. She tells them she's just moving to Austin. She couldn't face telling them she was going back to the city that almost killed her.
But she tries to bring that clean version of herself with her, doesn't she? She doesn't just dive right back into the party scene.
No, and this is so crucial to understanding her. When she arrived in SF in '66, she was serious about sobriety. She moved in with a guy named Travis Rivers, and they made a strict no needles pact, no hard drugs in the house, period.
So she was really trying to protect herself.
She was fighting for her life. There was a famous story where she came home one day and found people injecting drugs in her apartment. She didn't just get annoyed. She exploded. She was screaming, "We had a pact! We had a pact! I can't stand to see that." She was terrified of slipping back into that world.
But then the band starts to take off. She joins Big Brother. And we have to talk about 1967, the Monterey Pop Festival.
A turning point. The
Yeah.
big bang for her career. Before Monterey, Big Brother was a local San Francisco curiosity. After Monterey, Janis Joplin was a global phenomenon.
I've seen that footage. It's electrifying.
She walked out on that stage and just unleashed everything. There's that famous shot of Mama Cass in the audience with her mouth just hanging open, watching Janis in total awe.
And that performance directly leads to the album Cheap Thrills. This is the record with Piece of My Heart with Summertime. It hits #1. But the sound of this album, it's not polished at all. It's not the Beatles. It's so gritty.
It's incredibly raw. It's designed to sound like a sweat-soaked club. On the track Turtle Blues, if you listen really closely, you can hear the sound of a drinking glass smashing on the floor and then being swept up by a broom.
They left that in the final mix.
They left it in. They said it created atmosphere. Now, musically, this is a point of debate that's gone on for decades. Critics have argued about Big Brother and the Holding Company forever. Some say they were amateurish, that they were sloppy, and that Janis was just way too good for them.
That's the narrative you hear a lot, that she outgrew them.
Right. But there is another school of thought, and I tend to agree with it. That sloppiness, that loose, psychedelic, improvisational chaos was actually the perfect bed for Janis's voice.
How so?
Well, if she had been with a tight, disciplined band, she might have felt constrained. Big Brother gave her room to be messy, to scream, to drag the beat wherever she wanted. They followed her emotional lead. They didn't dictate it.
But the industry pressure was probably immense. Everyone was telling her, ditch the band, you're the star. So she leaves Big Brother to go solo.
She does. In 1969, she forms the Cosmic Blues Band. And she wanted to pivot. She loved Otis Redding. She loved Tina Turner. She wanted a full-on soul review horns, brass, tight session musicians. She wanted to be a real band leader, not just a finger in a jam band.
And how did the fans and critics take that change?
It was mixed. Rolling Stone was actually really mean about it. I think they called the new band a drag.
Oh.
Yeah. But then the Washington Post loved it. The transition was rough for her personally, though. She was suddenly the boss, dealing with payroll and musical arrangements, and the stress was mounting. And sadly, that fear she had back in Texas, it came true. By early 1969, she was back on heroin.
How bad was it?
Biographers claim she was spending up to $200 a day on the habit, which was a fortune back then.
Which brings us to the most famous concert in history, Woodstock, August 1969. Now, if you just buy the poster, Janis is a highlight, but if you were there or if you ask her, it wasn't a triumph at all.
No, this is where the myth really clashes with the reality. Janis was not at her best at Woodstock. And a lot of it just had to do with the terrible logistics of that festival. She arrived ready to play, but everything was running hours and hours behind schedule.
And for an addict, waiting 10 hours backstage is not just annoying, it's incredibly dangerous.
Exactly. You have 10 hours to kill backstage with nothing to do. So she spent that time drinking and shooting heroin with her friend Peggy Caserta. By the time she finally hit the stage, I think it was around 2 a.m., She was visibly intoxicated.
Pete Townsend of The Who commented on this, didn't he?
He did. He said she wasn't at her best, but he added this lovely caveat. Even Janis on an off night was incredible, and she was. She powered through it, but she knew. She was humiliated by that performance.
Oh, what did she do?
When the Woodstock documentary and soundtrack were being put together in 1970, she insisted that her performance be left out.
Oh, she actually blocked the release of the footage initially.
She did. She was a perfectionist about her craft. She didn't want the world to see her sloppy and out of control. It was only released much, much later.
And the chaos wasn't just at Woodstock. It seemed like 1969 was a year of very public meltdowns.
It was an escalating spiral. She was arrested in Tampa for cursing at police from the stage. She screamed, "Don't F with those people," when she saw cops hassling the audience.
And then there was that infamous concert at Madison Square Garden with Tina Turner.
That sounds like a dream duet, right? Janis and Tina?
It should have been legendary.
It should have been. But Janis was so drunk and so stoned that it was described by her biographer, Myra Friedman, as a complete disaster. She called Janis an institutionalized psychotic rent by mania. She was just flailing on stage, not singing, just screaming into the void.
It's so hard to hear that. You see someone with so much talent just completely losing control. And while all this professional turbulence is happening, her personal life is just as complicated. We talked about her deep need for acceptance. How did that play out in her relationships?
Her love life was frantic, in a way. She was always looking for the one. And her sexuality was very fluid, which was just another way she refused to be categorized by society.
She had relationships with men and women.
She did. She had high-profile relationships with Men Country Joe McDonald, Chris Christopherson, and later her fiancé, Seth Morgan. But she also had these deep, significant relationships with women, like Jay Whittaker and especially Peggy Caserta.
And there were rumors about this at the time, right?
Oh, constant rumors. People in the press would call her a dyke.
Yeah.
And there's this quintessential Janis quote when she heard that rumor. She told her road manager, "Tell them that Janis says she's gotten it on with a couple of thousand cats in her life and a few hundred chicks and see what they can do with that."
See what they can do with it. I love that. It's such a power move. I am too big for your labels.
Precisely. But we do have to talk about the dynamic with Peggy Caserta. Peggy was a boutique owner in Haight-Ashbury, and she was one of Janis's main lovers. But their relationship was deeply fueled by their mutual heroin addiction.
So it was a bond, but a really toxic one.
Incredibly toxic. They abled each other's worst habits. And that profound loneliness we talked about earlier, it never really went away, despite all these people in her life.
No.
Even toward the very end, there was this confusing, messy situation involving a threesome that never happened. Janis had this idea that she, Peggy, and her fiancé, Seth Morgan, would all be together. In her final day, she was literally waiting for them to show up at her hotel, and they didn't. It just contributed to this profound sense of abandonment she felt right before she died.
So let's move to 1970, the final year. It actually starts with a glimmer of hope. She tries to get clean again.
She does. In February 1970, she travels to Brazil for Carnival. She gets clean, she kicks the heroin, and while she's there, she meets a guy named David Niehaus.
And who was he? Was he a musician, part of the scene?
No. And that was the beauty of it. He was an American tourist, a teacher, completely removed from the music world. He wasn't a druggie.
Yeah.
There's these photos of them in Rio, and Janis she looks unrecognizable.
In a good way.
In the best way. She looks healthy. She's smiling, a real smile, not a stage smile. They were traveling through the jungle, just having this incredible adventure.
It sounds like that option A she talked about with her therapist, a life without all the madness.
It was. But she had to come back to the U.S.
And that was the tragedy.
The environment just swallowed her up again. She relapsed. And David Niehaus, who really cared for her, caught her shooting drugs at her home in Larkspur, California.
And he didn't stick around after that.
He couldn't. He broke up with her. It's this devastating sliding doors moment. You know, if she had stayed in Brazil, or if she had managed to keep him, maybe things go differently. But she lost the relationship, and she dove right back into her work.
But musically, she was actually finding her footing again in 1970. She formed a new band, the Full Tilt Boogie Band.
And this, to me, is the great artistic tragedy of her story. The Full Tilt Boogie Band was arguably the best fit she ever had.
Really? Better than Big Brother.
In a different way. It was a group of Canadian musicians, no horns this time, just a tight, driving rock rhythm section.
Yeah.
And Janis finally felt like she was in control. She used to say, "It's my band." They supported her voice perfectly without ever competing with it.
So she has the band, she has the songs, but before she records the final album, she decides to do something that seems, well, almost masochistic. She goes to her 10-year high school reunion in Port Arthur, August 1970.
Why do any of us go to our reunions? We want validation. She wanted to walk in there as a global rock star and show all those people who bullied her. Look at me now. She even brought a camera crew with her.
Did it work? Did she get that validation?
It was a disaster. It backfired completely. She wore feathers and velvet and bell-bottoms, and the town just looked at her like she was an alien from another planet. She felt judged all over again.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was a press conference where a reporter asked her, "So what was it like for you to be in high school?" And she just crumbled. She felt humiliated. It reopened every single one of those old wounds right before she went into the studio.
So she takes all that pain and all that baggage back to Los Angeles to record what would become Pearl.
She's recording with Paul Rothchild, who was famous for producing The Doors, so a top-tier producer. And despite all the emotional turmoil, the sessions were going incredibly well. She was singing better than ever. She was engaged to Seth Morgan, though that relationship was volatile, and he was not a stabilizing force in her life at all.
And we have to talk about the song Mercedes-Benz. The story of that song is just legendary.
It captures her spirit perfectly. A few months earlier, she was at a place called the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York. She's at a nearby bar, a gin mill, with songwriter Bob Newirth and the actors Geraldine Page and Rip Torn.
That's quite a crew to be drinking with.
Right. And she just starts riffing. She starts pounding a rhythm on the table and writing lyrics on bar napkins. "Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz?" It was social commentary, it was a prayer, it was a joke, all at once.
How did it end up on the album?
When they were in the studio recording Pearl, on October 1st, 1970, she just started singing it a cappella between takes.
And Rothschild had the foresight to roll the tape.
He rolled the tape. And that single take, raw, funny, full of her personality, was the very last vocal she ever recorded.
That gives me chills. The last thing she gave the world was that little off-the-cuff prayer.
It really is haunting. And there was another track she was working on, a song called Buried Alive in the Blues. The band had laid down the instrumental track. She was scheduled to come in on Sunday, October 4th, to record the vocals. And she was really excited about it.
But she never made it to the studio. Let's walk through that final weekend, October 3rd and 4th, 1970.
So Saturday, October 3rd, she's at Sunset Sound Recorders in L.A. She listens to the instrumental of Buried Alive in the Blues, and she's happy with it. She tells Rothschild she'll see him tomorrow. But personally, she's agitated.
Why?
She knows her fiancé, Seth Morgan, is back in the Bay Area, and he's not calling. She suspects, correctly, that he's playing around with other women. She just feels ignored and abandoned.
So she leaves the studio.
She goes out for drinks at Barney's Beanery with her keyboardist, Ken Pearson. They have a few drinks, nothing crazy. Then she drives back to the Landmark Motor Hotel in Hollywood. She's driving her famous psychedelic Porsche.
Is she alone at this point?
She's alone. She gets to the hotel, has a brief, totally normal conversation with the hotel clerk in the lobby. I think she asks for change for the cigarette machine, and then goes up to her room, and that was it. She went to her room and injected heroin.
And she was found the next day.
Sunday evening. Her road manager, John Byrne Cook, got worried when she hadn't shown up to the studio. He went to the hotel, saw the Porsche in the parking lot, and had to break down the door to her room. He found her dead on the floor.
The official cause was a heroin overdose.
Heroin, likely compounded by alcohol. But, and this is very important for understanding what happened, there's a specific theory about why she overdosed that particular night. Because Janis was an experienced user. She knew her limits.
This is the hot shot theory, right? Explain what that means for people who might not know the terminology.
Right. So street heroin is never pure. It's cut with fillers like sugar or talcum powder to increase profits and lower the potency. An addict gets used to a certain strength. John Byrne Cook and others believe that the batch Janis bought that weekend was a hot shot, meaning it was nearly pure heroin, or at least significantly more potent than what was usually on the street.
So she takes her normal dose thinking she knows what she's doing.
But because the purity is so high, that normal dose becomes lethal. It's like drinking a glass of water only to find out it's pure vodka. And the evidence for this is strong. Cook found out that several other regular customers of the same dealer also overdosed that exact same weekend.
Wow.
It suggests this wasn't Janis being reckless or trying to kill herself. It was an accidental poisoning, essentially.
That makes it even more tragic. It was a mistake, a fatal mistake.
A fatal miscalculation. And there was some weirdness at the scene, too. The famous coroner, Thomas Noguchi, wrote a book where he claimed that when police first arrived, the room was clean. No drugs, no needles, no paraphernalia.
Someone cleaned it up.
Allegedly, yes. A friend arrived before the police, panicked, and removed the narcotics and the works to avoid a scandal or maybe protect the dealer. But then, supposedly, they realized, wait, the autopsy's going to find the drugs in her system anyway, and they tried to put things back.
Yeah.
It's messy and it's just sad. It shows that even in her death, there was this panic around her image and the law.
She was 27 years old.
The 27 Club. It's just eerie. She died just 16 days after Jimi Hendrix, and a month after Alan Wilson from the band Canned Heat. It cemented this dark mythology in pop culture that 27 is this cursed age for musicians. It turned their deaths into a pattern.
But unlike some artists who fade away, her music exploded after she died. I mean, Pearl wasn't even out yet.
That's the ultimate irony, isn't it? Pearl was released 3 months after her death in early 1971, and it became her masterpiece. It was her biggest-selling album by far. Me and Bobby McGee, which was written by her friend Chris Christopherson, went to #1. She finally got the #1 hit she always wanted, and she wasn't there to hear it.
When we look at her legacy today, it's just massive. I mean, you can draw a straight line from Janis to so many artists who came after.
Absolutely. Think about what a girl singer was before Janis. You had the Supremes, you had these polished, choreographed, polite entertainers. They were beautiful and contained. Then Janis walks out. No makeup, hair everywhere, sweating, screaming, stomping her foot. She was aggressive. She was sexual without being pretty in that conventional sense.
She gave other women permission to be messy on stage.
She broke the seal on female rage and female power in rock and roll. Without Janis, do you get Stevie Nicks spinning in her shawls? Do you get Courtney Love? Do you get Pink? Pink has explicitly said she related to Janis because of that ugly duckling syndrome. The feeling of not being the pretty pop star, but having the voice and the guts.
She completely changed the architecture of what a woman could do on a stage.
She did. She made it okay to be in pain on stage. She made it okay to be ugly on stage, if ugly meant being real and raw and true to the emotion.
So, as we wrap this up, how do we synthesize this whole story? We have the terrible tragedy, the lonely death in a hotel room, but we also have Pearl, this perfect, shining album.
I think the tragedy is simply that she was just getting started. She was peaking, truly. She finally had the full-tilt boogie band, the band that could actually keep up with her and support her. She was exploring her voice, moving into more country and soul influences. She was incredibly disciplined about her craft, even if she wasn't disciplined about her body.
She cared deeply about the work. She wasn't just some chaotic mess. She was a serious musician.
Exactly. And she cared about love. That is the through line for me. From the little girl in Port Arthur who just wanted the other kids to like her, to the woman singing, "Take Another Little Piece of My Heart," she was constantly seeking the connection and the love she felt had been denied to her in her youth.
It leaves you with a really, really big what if.
It does. It's the question that hangs over the entire 27 Club. If Janis had survived that night, if that batch of heroin had been just a little bit weaker, where would she have gone? The 70s were changing. Would she have conquered the 80s? Would she have become a blues matriarch like Etta James or Bonnie Raitt?
Or would she have found that domestic life she seemed to want with someone like David Niehaus?
Maybe. Would she have found peace? Or was that turbulence, that pain, was that the essential fuel for that incredible voice? We'll never know. But imagining a 50-year-old Janis Joplin, wise and weathered, still singing the blues. It's a beautiful image to hold on to.
A force of nature silenced way too soon. Thank you so much for helping us unpack the life of Janis Joplin today.
Thank you. It's a heavy story, but a really important one.
And to our listener, I want to give you a little homework. Take a moment today to listen to Buried Alive in the Blues on the Pearl album. Listen to that amazing instrumental track and just listen to the space where her voice should have been. It really drives it all home. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.